everybody, welcome on the Good Data Morning Show. Woo-hoo. Hello, Scott.
George, Deanna, how are you? Nice to see you.
Can you actually see us with these glasses?
Oh no, we lost Scott again.
No.
We are having this issue. Okay,
Hey,
you're back on. You're kind of like in a Matrix style.
I don't want that. I don't know what the conductivity problem is, but I'm down here in Florida. It's lovely. I'll put on more accessible glasses for the folks at home, but always thrilled to be talking with the both of you. So thanks for having me. Good data morning.
Good data morning to you.
Welcome, everyone. Maybe you can let us know where you're from, what time it is there. Scott can see the ocean out his window. I don't know if I wanted to know this information. A little bit jealous, envious here. But I have the pleasure of introducing you, Scott. Scott finds the perfect words to tell your perfect data story. He's the father of the ITB, who is full of buzzwords that nobody understands, and the chief data officer, who is on a mission to create a data-driven utopia of interoperability. Now, these creative and funny characters tell the story of what makes things go wrong in organizations. And I mean, even I get the message, even though I'm not a data professional, which means that the characters are doing their job. Scott spent over 2 decades solving master data challenges with large global enterprises, as well as guiding tech brand owners to leverage their reference data and taxonomy assets. His mission is to help organizations make their data do the work. He's an avid business evangelist, original thinker, and one of the most prolific LinkedIn influencers in the data field. He is the data whisperer, the one who calms data down and tells the data story for happy data endings. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. What a wonderful
Scott.
introduction. Keep going. Yes, I love that. Thank you.
Oh, there were many, many other things to say about you. I just selected, and it was very hard to do the most important one.
And he's a published author.
Oh, a published author.
Oh, you got okay. Good. We have 2. Yes, I've got a couple. Oh, I got another copy here too. There's a third. Just one just came in. So
does that mean that you're going to give one away, Scott?
We're going to give one away to a lucky viewer, not a physical copy, a digital copy, so you can take it with you wherever you go. So one lucky viewer will be getting a copy of Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management, 99% buzzword free. So that's a guarantee. Amazing. I can guarantee.
So everyone ask your questions, and we will select a winner after this show.
Definitely, we'll do a just a random draw, and we'll announce the winner a few days afterwards. So I gotta say something about Scott's characters, which I really love, and I think I love them more than Baby Yoda over here.
Oh, nice, Baby Yoda.
They're really quite adorable.
We are. I know we haven't gotten there yet. I know I promised, but
you're
set that up.
Can you see that again?
We're going to have an interview with the
ITB, yes. So I am going to meet the ITB, and we're going to have a chat, and I can't wait to do that.
Yes, we have to do that.
So, Scott, we wanted to talk today about the data storytelling, which is also the topic of your book. You are the expert on this. And my first question is, I mean, I know what the data story is. I know what a story is, and I think about Cinderella and The Little Mermaid. But what is a data story?
A data story, as I define it, is why data management is important to your organization. Now, data storytelling as a topic area is probably the hottest non-technical thing going on in the data space. There's probably, I don't know, 20, 30 books out there about data storytelling. I looked at those and listened to the space around all the talk about data storytelling, data literacy, even data science, and went, where's the voice of data management in all this? I didn't hear it. So I took it upon myself and said, all right, I think there's a place for the data management perspective in all this data storytelling stuff. And so that's literally why I wrote the book and subtitled it Data Storytelling for Data Management. And the distinction I would make is data storytelling, as most people know it, is telling stories with data, the analytics viewpoint, how to make sure that insight takes the right kind of business perspective and drives a business action. You also have to tell stories about your data, why data management and that foundational content is core to what everything your organization does. So there's two kinds. You don't have to choose here. It's not Sophie's choice. You should have both. You should do both. But my point was there are two. So let's open up the space and say data storytelling for data management is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Grace here is mentioning that she could really use that book to start selling BI at her work. Could you sell BI as well? Would that be part of the data piece?
You could sell BI. That tends to be sort of the data storytelling that most people are familiar with.
Mm.
But if what you want to do is reinforce that BI, if it doesn't have good data, is just BS, then you've got to have that good content going in. So I think I play a part in that for sure. So buy the book anyway. Let me know how it works, and hopefully it'll help you. Because I do talk a lot about just the construction of a story in a business setting. There's a couple of tips on there on talking to high-level executives, how to frame it, those kinds of things. So I think it's valuable for anybody trying to tell a story at an enterprise.
And Tyler here is asking, do you think machine learning is also part of data storytelling, or is also a tool for storytelling, not just using Tableau or Power BI?
It's sure. Again, that's sort of the analytics side. I bucket the world, the data space or the technology spaces we all play in it in two kind of big areas. One is data management. The other is analytics and business intelligence. Data management is really about determining the truth in data versus deriving meaning from data. Obviously, I'm the truth side, hence the meaning of my truth hat. Doing that first, and it's not chicken or egg here. It is egg and omelet. You've got to determine the truth first before you derive any meaning. If you put garbage into ML, you get bad robots in a hurry. So you've got to have the right content going in.
Absolutely, and I keep saying this as well. Once you have that story derived from the truth, make sure that you also keep the truth in the story, not. Sometimes we see it in the news how they try and wrap things around just so it sounds more exciting, more appealing to read it or to watch it. For sure.
You can make the data do anything. And one great example is I've looked at, and on Amazon, I am the #1 data book in the performing arts category.
Amazing.
They categorize me in performing arts for some, maybe it's because I'm walking around on stage here. So I'm actually ranking 193 in performing arts. So you can make the data do anything if you really twist it the right way. There's no other data book in the performing arts category in Amazon.
So you're basically #1.
That's what I decided. I'm #1, and I think I'm number 1 million too, both. But I'll take the better ranking.
So Scott, you talked about. Do you have a question that you want to put up?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so you were talking about constructing a data, and that your book contains some tips on how to do that. Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe give us 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 tips?
Sure. The one thing to remember is telling the kind of story you are telling about your data in your organization. It's not a big epic journey. It's not a suspense, novel. It shouldn't be a comedy. Hopefully it's not a tragedy. It's a pitch is what it is. You are pitching it like in good old Don Draper, Mad Men style. You are trying to get people to take action from what you are explaining to them. So it is selling. No way around it. You've got to sell that idea of to your organization that they've got to invest on an ongoing basis with data management. And every pitch is divided. If you have any kind of sales training, I'll give my 1-minute sales training clinic here. It's divided into 4 phases, no matter what: attention, interest, desire, and action. So you've got to get somebody's attention. You got to develop their interest. You got to kind of nurture that desire. And then you've got to secure that action. People aren't going to take action on something they don't want. They're not going to want something if they're not interested. And they can't be interested if it didn't attract their attention. So it really is this linear process of get their attention, develop that interest, nurture that desire, and then close them with an action. And that's a classic sales process, no matter what. So think about that as you construct that narrative.
Well, you sold it.
So,
So,
there we go.
I mean, I gotta say, having read the book, there's so much more great advice in here. So I definitely recommend you book a copy today because it's an awesome read that any data professional, any business professional really should have this on their bookshelf.
Thank you, George. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was fun to write. I won't say it's too much. It was a chore to write. So I'll admit it there. Anybody's written a book, it is a job. You are
I'm sure.
Once
Oh
you
my
commit
God.
to it, you are every day was either I'm writing the book or I am not writing the book today. It's one of the other. It's not like you could sort of take it out of your mind. So it became my COVID summer project last year. And after spending a couple of years thinking about it, I just went, all right, I'm never going to get time like this again.
Yeah.
Let's just
Absolutely.
buckle down and do it. So I'm pleased that it's done. I'm relieved that it's done, and it seems to be doing well. People are liking it, and that's what's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that just answered Ayush's question as well.
Yeah. So I wrote 3 books, and I remember that, yeah, it took a lot of energy from me and a lot of mental bandwidth. And I also remember that I wasn't able to write something intelligent for more than 2 or 3 hours a day. So I don't know how it worked for you, but after 2 or 3 hours, I just felt that there's nothing coming out where I can't squeeze anything out of my brain after those hours. Oh, we lost Scott again. No.
Am I okay? I'm
Yes,
sorry
yes.
about
Okay,
this.
now.
What is going on here? We hate this. It's the
I
world's
think
got to
the
be
waves
very
of the
here.
ocean are interfering with the internet waves.
Oh, okay. All right. Calm down out there. But I'd written a lot of little pieces, did the videos, but making something that's a couple hundred pages, that through line, does it all hold together? And so I was really kind of on pins and needles when I sent it to my publisher and I had a couple of friends take a look at it. My son and my sister are both really great writers and do a lot of work. So they helped me, and they both found the same kinds of things. The couple of people I sent it to found exactly the same little holes. So that was nice validation. But for me, one of the most exciting parts was when the publisher just wrote back and said, okay, this is good. Like, okay, we got something here.
Yes.
And that's where you really gotta, that was kind of wondering, does it all really pull together?
Yeah.
But I'm really pleased with it.
I have
And
a feeling this is Giovanna saying, well said, Scott Taylor, that a Whisperer's book is a must read. And yes,
Thank
it
you.
is.
Thank you, all LinkedIn users. Yes.
And what I think that one of your biggest skills and talents, Scott, is the fact that you make data interesting and somehow entertaining. So you can keep people's attention and interest and create their desire to do things with data management and to become better in that. So I think that all reflects in your book, which is great because, well, sadly, some books like this are a little bit drier, which is not the case here.
Yeah, 99% are.
Well, as I made, I'm like, guarantee 99% buzzword free in my book there. People have said, so what's the 1%? I said, I don't think there's any buzzwords in here, but you don't want to overpromise. Make sure, keep expectations well managed. But it's a problem we have in the space, right? This inherent need, it seems, for a lot of our peers to come up with the newest term for something.
Yeah.
Another twist of a phrase, whether it's, a lake house is now a thing, and, analytics, graph hub, fabric mesh, as you mentioned, do we have a utopia of interoperability where data flows from workflow to edge across integrated ecosystems? It's just kind of blah, blah, blah. So for me, you've got to use the language of the business. I know, George, you talk about that a lot as well. You've got to get that business language in the conversation as the vocabulary, exactly. And then you can convey that power of what you have to offer.
Exactly. As Kate here mentioning, reading the book now and love the part about taking no for an answer.
Take no, that's one of my many puns in there. Thank you, Kate. We knew it was you. This is Mrs. Datacated. Yes. She did a wonderful video today just of the book. It was lovely for her to do that. So
you got to catch up on some of the posts.
Yeah.
So we know that Scott is a great author because we've read the book. He's a great storyteller as well. That's obvious. But he's also a great speaker. What?
That doesn't come as a surprise.
And not only that, but he's really a great moderator as well. And dare I say, semi co-organizer of events as well.
A little bit there. I'm involved, if you're referencing it there, to the MDM 2.0 Master Data Marathon. I'm doing that with the folks at ThinkLinkers, this great group that I work with. They're out of the Czech Republic. We did a couple of events. 2 years ago, I met them, and we did some events in Berlin, really nice MDM events, but we had to go virtual. So we came up with this idea of a 24-hour marathon event online around the clock. And I'm hosting that, which is a blast. We did one last September where we wondered if we could even finish. I haven't done an all-nighter since I was in college. So you can't really practice staying up all night. But we did it. We succeeded. We did like 25 hours and 7 minutes, but who's counting? And this year we're going to do it again in March in a couple of weeks. And we're excited. George, I know you're part of that. Thanks for joining us. The 10 V's of big data. We're going to have a conversation about how many V's there are. That'll be fun.
Yeah. 10 buzzwords right there.
Yeah. But it's a fun group. And we tried to do it where, we had people staying up all night with us, which we did not expect. So we're encouraging that this time, because no matter what time zone you're in, we're going to be up talking about master data. Like I say, master data keeps some people up all night. It's keeping us up all night for sure. So in a good way.
I still want to go back to the data storytelling, because that's why we're here.
Yeah, of course. I have a question about that, and then we can go into some of the questions from the audience, if that's okay. But maybe, let's bring on Lisa's first. And she's mentioning we struggle telling the story from the data management side because execs can't see it like they see the business intelligence results. What do you think of that, Scott? Why is it hard for us to tell that story?
Great point, Lisa. They can't see it, but they can feel it. Remember that when those reports are wrong, when you've got a business executive saying, well, this region isn't how I define it, or we've got duplicates in the file, or I've got my people calling on one division of a company. They don't realize it's related to another division of a company. Those are all painful things that you may not see in BI, but you certainly feel if you have that lack of data management. So I focus on the why. That's one point. Why is data management important to an organization? You've got to find what your organization is trying to do, and then show how better data that's well managed is going to enable that. Most people start the other way around, such as, we need better data quality. Okay, that's kind of hard to argue against.
Yeah.
It's not very it's like, we want, I can't even think of an analogy here, but puppy dogs and sunny days are lovely. Yes, we all agree on that.
And we just stopped on a cliffhanger note here. But I think what Scott is trying to say is that that's not really convincing the exec to buy into your data management needs, data governance needs, and invest into it just by saying that, hey, we need better data quality.
Am I back?
Yes.
You are back. Yeah.
Okay,
I tried to fill in as best as I could.
Yeah, I'm sorry about it. I'm not quite sure what's happening on workshop studio here. But yeah, data quality is a very emotional, subjective word. Quality itself. And that as an objective, I feel, with all respect to these data quality experts out there, it doesn't sell. So if what you're trying to do is get that support, we need better data quality, even if you already know that that's not the goal. The goal is enable this other objective. So point at that other organization, provides value to their relationships through their brands at scale. That's where you'll start to find the why. Why does data will absolutely help your company do that at scale. Remember, think about at scale. What company doesn't want to do things at scale? They all do. Mm-hmm. And they want to do that for their relationships, which goes directly into master data.
Into master data.
and then into the other domains around brands like products, services, and offerings. So those two big domain sets are the core to every business. You got to have relationships, and the way you bring value to those relationships is through your brands and the data behind those ideas. As a data manager, that's what you're responsible for. So elevate that conversation to show how better data management enables that strategic intention.
As Amit mentioned, impressive and insightful perspectives. So
thank you, Amit. Thank you very much.
And yes, I think we can all relate to some of your stories for sure. And we have one here from Mike. How would you advise organizations who are looking to mature their data story, the same as data privacy and other regulatory challenges are causing these same organizations to look closer at minimizing their data footprints?
I'm not sure how directly related those two are. So if you've got a data privacy, the data footprint part. So, but if we just take the first part of that question, data privacy, a lot of that has to do with controlling the data you've got. And a really good way to destroy your relationships that people have with your brands is to not govern the data you have about those relationships in the proper way. And that can be a data breach. That can be just messing up a relationship in terms of how you deal with people in CRM or whatever it happens to be. So I just feel like this all lends more and more support to the idea that you've got to have stronger data governance and data management practices. There's a lot of parts to data privacy, data security, but knowing who gets to see what when, a lot of that's in the metadata and the reference data that's in your, that should be connected to the data you've got about those relationships. So I think it just supports a more mature data story. Absolutely. And if you think about the three reasons that people use data: grow your business, improve your business, protect your business. That third one especially is becoming more and more important. Protecting, mitigating risk, data privacy, data security. These are all really critical things. And the beauty of something like master data is it can do all three of those things for an organization, sometimes with the same record, if you play it right. Mm-hmm. It's able to be reused and repurposed and pointed at multiple different pieces of value at the same time. So get the foundation right. That's why they call it a foundation. Absolutely.
And just to add to that, I think just looking at one example out of that data privacy bit, so a data breach, that could be one of your antagonists in your data story to help you tell it better.
Yeah. Oh, nice literary reference there. Yes, indeed. You want to build that story. You want characters, you want a plot, you want the whole configuration of what a great story is.
Absolutely. Just going to mention that Dennis Kessler here is saying that you are a naturally unique performer. Yeah, that's why you are in the performing arts there category.
Yeah, I know. Dennis has some talents of his own. If you watch the 12 Days of Data Management, he's playing the tuba or the sousaphone. I don't know which one it is, but he's got the Scott, big horn.
Can you give us an example of a data story? So you don't need to tell us the name of the organization, but how is it? How can you give us an example, a concrete example?
And by the way, he has quite a few towards the end of his book, so don't want to give too much away, but he has, 7 examples.
Yeah, I pulled out a couple of examples, and for me, it was really showing people how to find the data story in what the organization was trying to do. So one of the core points is it's not a data story for data story sake alone. It's a story that shows it's enabling, as I say often, the strategic intentions of the enterprise. So look for what your company's trying to do. An example I have in there that I use often because it's just so clear is we looked at the vision of a company that we were working with, and their vision was stated right in their Investor Day presentation. We aspire to be the premier partner of choice with our customers and vendors. Very simple, straightforward, and a great aspiration. It talked all about relationships. Those two things are types of relationships. When we looked at the data they had about those relationships, it was a mess. So they had an example we showed was 185 copies of the same record. How can you possibly have a good relationship with an entity if you don't have the data well structured about that entity? You can't do that at scale. So the data story there was, if you want to achieve this vision, we have got to work on the data that enables that vision. So very short kind of précis of what that story was about, but it hit home with these folks, and they had already done kind of the classic stuff, the ROI, the use cases, the roadmap, the maturity, but it still wasn't resonating with the senior leadership, especially on the business side, of why this was important to them. They could see it's important for infrastructure, important for internal things probably, but why this affected their day-to-day work. And a simple example of, your data file's got, it's a mess. It's got lots of duplicates. You don't have the hierarchies right. The categorization sometimes, is correct. Sometimes it's not. All those things end up having people make bad decisions off of data that they don't necessarily want to make, because the data they've got, they can't trust. So hopefully that answers your question. But what I tried to do in the back of the book was just find some really, what didn't look like they were overt examples of stories about data, and showed the connection between those stories and where data really helps enable it.
Scott, organizations hire you to do this for them? And if yes, who in the organization does it? Who reaches out to you?
So I work with kind of two groups. I work with, if I can work with enterprises, it's really those folks in the data management, CDO office, wherever that part of the organization that owns that data and is struggling and frustrated that they're not getting the funding or the engagement or the business support for the programs that they're trying to put in place. The other group that I work with are some of the tech brands, so software companies and consultants who are trying to also explain what they do in a way that's, I help amplify or a little more engaging, or I just kind of help validate as, the work I do, as you mentioned, kind of across LinkedIn and elsewhere, to help them tell that story better as well. But anybody struggling to try and explain why data management's important, one of my favorite reviews I got was, it's a must read for anybody trying to get funding for their data management effort. So all about the how. Now, how do you couple that with the why? That's my part I play.
Absolutely. And yes, I got to say the book helps a lot with that. And got to address Camden's comment here. I feel like this is giving me new vocabulary for addressing problems I'm seeing at work right now. Maybe I should read the book. And yes, you should.
Yes, that's not a maybe. That's a for sure. And you echo actually something I even put in the intro, which is, I'm not going to teach you how to do data management.
But Scott,
it's going to teach you how to tell the data story to convince the executives to invest in your program.
Exactly.
Which is
well
probably
said,
one. Yeah, I know, right? I should help Scott with his endeavors.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about why people should follow Scott and what type of content he puts out on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Well, it's a lot along the line of telling your data story, and a lot of the 4 C's and the 3 V's and the 8 8s.
What?
So there's a lot. Yeah, I know, right? You got to read the book. You got to follow Scott for getting all of this, and everything is amazingly said, right? Everything is so catchy, and it just sticks to you. And if it sticks to you, you are sure it will stick to the business side as well.
Yes. So you know what? I think this is a skill that most of us don't have. And I don't only mean data professionals. I mean us in the business, to sell our work in order to get the funding. So I think it's a great skill to have and to nurture. For example, another example would be maybe public speaking or presentation skills. And this is something along those lines. I don't even know if I should call it a soft skill, but there's nobody out there to teach you how to do that.
I know. And it combines it with sales too, right? Which
Mhm.
is not I mean, it's a great skill to have, but it's maybe not an easy one to master if you don't have at least some sort of a guide or, a
Mhm.
reference point on how you can get inspired to tell some of these stories. And
Yes,
Scott is back.
I don't know why it's not working. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. It's nothing but
You know what, Scott? You need to rewatch it because we, I think, said some important things while you're away.
Okay, good. I'll rewatch it there. But I apologize for the technical difficulties. But what can we do here? Anyway, I'm back. I forget what I was saying.
Christopher is, it was just saying powerful stuff. We know the how, but need to better couple it with the why, like you said. Yes.
Absolutely. It's a combination. Again, you don't want to choose, but most data practitioners, most people in the technology space focus on the how. And I have never had a CEO interrupt me and say, how do you do it? But they will interrupt you and say, why? Why do I care? Why are you telling me this? Why is this important? And if you don't answer the why, they're not gonna pay attention to the how. Got to do that why first. Yeah.
That's
exactly.
What's in it for me in this?
We have a few other questions here, but first I do got to say that LinkedIn users are looking forward to reading this book.
Good. All right. So based on that, I should sell 70 million copies. So that'll be lovely.
And yes, you are keeping us in suspense with some
of
these.
Didn't mean to, inadvertently, for sure. We didn't mean to keep you in too much suspense here.
Now, Alfredo is asking, I've been working for several years on the backend ETL database. My question is it a book for beginners to start with storytelling, or do you recommend a previous knowledge?
Yeah, start. I mean, if you've been working on sort of the backend ETL, right, and that sort of thing, how do you articulate that business value? That's what I think I help do. So getting away from the more technical aspects. So absolutely, the previous knowledge it sounds like you've got plenty. If you're working and understand how data is managed, I think I can help you explain that better to a non-data audience. People talk a lot about being data literate. I didn't come up with this term till later, but I feel like the data side needs to become more business literate. So, where's the call for business literacy, right? Understanding your business, using the business terminology, using the language of your business to explain it. And, ETL, I did a bit on that once. They talk now about ELT, right? That's the better way. Yep. If you explain that to a business person, they're going to, we figured it out. We're not going to do ETL. We're going to do ELT. That just sounds like a typo you fixed. It's just like, okay, glad you figured it out. So remember that the people you're talking to in a lot of these cases don't have that background. And part of my point in staying away from that terminology, the first couple minutes you have with somebody to explain something are the most important. And if you're going to spend that time explaining terminology to them that may not be that relevant, you're going to waste that prime moment. So don't start with those technology words. Don't start with, okay, we're going to teach you what a data fabric is. It's like, does that really matter in that context? Because you'll spend a lot of time, you'll waste a lot of time explaining things to people to get them to the point where you can now tell the story. So another tip.
Beautifully said. Another question, what's the better way to quantify the data management initiatives and tell the story around that? And I think you're addressing part of it and with one story here that's worth noting towards the end of the $400 million fine.
Yeah, that's the worst data. Yeah, that's the worst possible data story. It's the data story exception that proves all the rules. And George, you and I did a LinkedIn Live on that, just ripping that apart. Citibank, we don't mind naming their name because they were named in this suit, was fined $400 million for their lack of data governance. This wasn't even an indirect thing. And so on the one hand, it's a terrible thing to happen to an organization, but being a data management, data governance person like I am, it was kind of exciting to see those terms actually named in the suit. They lacked metadata. They didn't have the right standards. They were missing hierarchies. They had too many duplicates, the things we talk about all the time. They weren't banding about those those names there, where they're using the exact things that we reinforce are so important. So that's a really scary way to tell the story.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's the ultimatum piece. And there was a hefty price tag added to that.
Yeah. Imagine how much, data governance consulting they could have gotten from the both of us for 400 million. We'll do it for 100 million. Okay. We'll do it. You can keep the rest.
A quarter of the price. Yes. Well, Alfredo is appreciating your comments.
Thank you, Alfredo.
And so do we as well. Yes.
And also thank you, Mike. We have a beautiful comment for Mike, who tells us that we were able to give some.
We appreciate it. Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So Scott, please have a look at the rewatch that part, because I think
yes, I will. I'll see what I missed. Yes.
Devon has a good question here: how your book will benefit data scientists, and I can definitely answer that. But go ahead, Scott.
Excellent question. I actually have a paragraph in there about kind of a message to data scientists specifically, because as I got more and more involved in that community, certainly through the great Kate Strachny, who's on here somewhere, I think, right? She kind of introduced me to a lot of folks in there. I began to hear that they were, how do we engage better with the business? How do we align our value to the business? And so the exercises I have about understanding the essence of your business are relevant to the data science community too. That notion of bringing value to your relationships through your brands at scale, that clearly needs data and analytics. But the struggle I hear from a lot of data scientists, we know R, we know Python, we know all these wonderful techniques. Now, where do I point them? How do I know where to really show my value? It's not in that fluency you've got on the techniques. It's in how you use that to enable that, your organization to achieve their vision. So I think there's some exercises in there and some elaboration I do on understanding your business, as Kate had mentioned that comment. You can't take no for an answer. There's a whole list of things you need to know about your business. And I think that would help for sure.
And I think that was Ari Hunt's question here as well. What do you think will be the foundation for effectively and efficiently telling data stories? What skills should we look out for? And just a reminder that we're talking not about the data visualization, data story type, but really data storytelling for data management.
And I think this is applicable, kind of advice I'm going to give, or applicable to all types of storytelling. It's developing those soft skills. Mm-hmm. So I'm a soft skill guy, in case you couldn't tell already. I don't do any of the work we've just talked about. You don't want me in there. I don't get physical. I don't touch anything. But those soft skills of, empathy, of being able to convey some sort of idea, and literally some techniques like when you present. I mean, back when we all start, when you present, you've got to look people in the eye. You've got to understand where your light is. You've got to know timing. You've got to work on your ability to articulate some of these things. You got to practice, and doing something like a quick little elevator pitch. A lot of people are scared to do that. A lot of people kind of feel like, well, I'm a little nervous. I'd rather just do it when I need to do it. Nobody does it that way. All right. Professional athletes still train. They still have coaches. Actors still have coaches and trainers. And so it's no matter how good you think you are, you can always get better on honing those skills until it becomes just second nature. But there's a lot of soft skill advice in there, which in the data science and data management world, that's not why you got hired, right? Mm-hmm. But it does help you develop your career and your ability to communicate.
And it's such an important skill to have, like you said, for anybody really, but especially for data scientists that are trying to get the message of their results out there and understood, and voice why further investment maybe should be had, or why they need certain tools, or why they need access to certain data, and so forth and so on. There's so many cases that it could be applied to.
Scott, how did you decide to do this? So what was the trigger for you to dedicate your work towards data storytelling for data management?
It just came about from looking back at my whole career and what I was the best at. So I'm at a point, kind of later in my career here, obviously, and had worked for it started when I kind of looked back at my history, which is that first section, my data story, subtitled "Why You Should Even Listen to Me." The first data job I had, I didn't know anything about data, and I was working for a part of a company that's now part of Nielsen. Wasn't part of Nielsen then, but it was a data company. We provided data services to large organizations. And literally the first day, my manager comes in, and this was sort of dated, but they had the presentation, and it was this thick. Okay, so it comes in with this pitch book and starts going through these slides, and I'm barely into it, and I go, I'm getting paid to tell this, and I can't even sit through it. So it was clear it was, really confusing and really tactical. I cleaned that up and got that in a better pitch. But what I noticed was we would sell to IT parts of the organization, and they got it because it was a data service, a master data service. And they would say, well, the business isn't, we get it. We understand what you're talking about, but our business isn't asking for it. It took me a little while to realize the business doesn't even know to ask for this kind of stuff. But the need they had, it became more and more obvious, and more of them said, can you come with us to explain this to the business? I have, a knack and a flair for those kind of, stories. And so I started to develop a way to explain these very technical, internally sounding, Deanna, to your point, relatively boring and dull concepts to business people and get them from a state of, I have no idea what you're talking about, to, gosh, how do we live without this? Mm-hmm. And again, that attention, interest, and the desire part, at least. And then as my career grew, I just was really focusing on that. That became something I did with public speaking. I did a lot of public speaking. I was writing articles for magazines, and this was the funnest part of my job, was doing kind of that public outward facing stuff. When I worked at Dun & Bradstreet for a couple of years, they would call me in on these command performance meetings where, okay, the client just really doesn't understand why they need to renew, or we've got to help them, reinforce the strategic value of what we're doing. And I was really good at that kind of thing. And so, people go, all right, at a certain point, if you do what I do, which is a lot of this influence and content stuff, writing a book brings you to the next level. So I knew I had to do it or not, or I had to either do it or stop thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And so, as I mentioned last year, COVID came, it was like, all right, there's no excuses anymore. And realized that what I was doing for most of my career was a form of data storytelling before the term even, was coined and organized.
George, sorry.
I come from a whole family of storytellers. So my whole family, I think our family, my father was in sales. I was in sales. He was a magazine publisher. My mother, great storyteller, and had this wonderful talent for writing things and rhyming couplets. They were both super creative and passionate and humorous. My whole family, was in PR or in marketing. So all of those, inherent in all of those, is some way to tell a story.
I want to ask George, what is the most important thing that you learned from Scott?
Well, there are a few things that he reminded me back on the 8 8s and the 4 C's and the 3 V's, which I knew, but it's always good to have it in writing as well as a refresher. But I gotta say, what really stuck with me were your personal stories. Yes, there were a lot of great takeaways that I can apply to work as well. But I think it's your personal stories that really struck a chord and really feel it more personable, and it's such a great read. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Scott, I am curious. You are always full of energy. You give energy to your audience. How do you replenish that energy? So this is a more personal question. It's basically, what are your hobbies? What do you do for self-care?
Just a good start. Okay, so on a tactical basis, cup number 3 or 4.
Yeah, I have that too.
There we go. I run on data and coffee, and not necessarily in that order. But I'm sorry, I even forgot the question. Oh, how do I keep going? How do I kind of restart? I can go into what I call tropical mode. So you can't stay at this level all the time, right? Exactly. You got to get into sort of like recharge and you can't just keep going. So for instance, I'm not bragging here, but I've got 4 interviews today. So I've got yours. I'm on 2 podcasts. I did something for a client this morning. I like to do all those in one day because you get the performance energy. You're kind of focused.
Yeah.
But going up and down is a real, it's a real struggle. But I love the performing part. Obviously, I did acting when I was in high school and college. Ham by nature, and so it's just, you just get energy from the folks you talk with. I miss live conversations because there's so much more you get out of a room of hundreds of people is thrilling. So I'm learning the techniques of being more, you're on video and you can't really hear everybody responding, but you kind of hope people are it's resonating with them. But it's always been just kind of part of my nature to be kind of that. I used to call out in class, but I think I have I don't know if I mentioned it in there, but I mentioned a lot. People talk about being disruptive in the technology space. And I come by that honestly, because on my 4th grade report card, my teacher wrote, "Scott is disruptive and distracting to others." So I took that as a compliment and went, okay.
Absolutely.
I kind of break through there.
So Scott, are you doing anything to recharge that energy besides maybe kayaking?
Kayaking, just hanging out, doing, I'll be walking on the beach tomorrow. I've got a full day today, so it's lovely being down here in Florida and just kind of chill a little bit, me and my partner, and we're having a great time down here. She's in the other room talking as well. And like that, you just kind of go up and down, right? So you gotta modulate that. You can't stay at this level.
No, absolutely. Yeah, this is why I asked. I think we should let Scott have a dip in the ocean. I think it's time.
To recharge for the next
interview.
I got full some wall to wall today, so tomorrow I will. But I'll be thinking of you when I do for sure. But this has been wonderful. It's always great.
Thank you so much, Scott. It was a pleasure to have you on. Please check out Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. Get your copy today, and we'll do a draw of an electronic version in the next couple of days.
And also make sure that you check out the Master Data Marathon, the 24-hour marathon.
Master Data Marathon.
Master
exactly. Data. And Pamela already booked the...
Awesome.
All right, thank you, Pamela. Thank you so much. Let me know. Hopefully you enjoy it. So thanks so much.
All right. Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. As always, for your support and your wonderful questions. Scott, it's always a pleasure. I feel so good. This is going to be a great day. Now I have so much energy to go into.
Goody. It's always great talking to you too. So I
likewise
love the both of you.
Have a good one, everybody. And
bye,
good data.